is currently February 4th, and look around me. Look at all of these plants. I've got little flowering squash, tomatoes, little flowers on my tomatoes. It feels like spring has already sprung, which means I feel like I am super behind on getting my seeds started. I have been sick for a few weeks, which is why I have not posted a video. I am out here getting my spring seeds officially started. I told myself last year that I wanted to get all of my little transplants out in the garden no later than February 15th. Well, I'm pushing that extremely close. I might get plants out here that are like little tiny sprouts, but it's better than nothing. The most appropriate place to get my seeds started today would be directly in the garden, although I'm not planting them out in the garden today. I'm not direct sowing. I'm doing them in soil blocks as opposed to the back porch, just because it is so nice out. So my name is Shelby, and with that said, let's get started. Okay, if you are a current subscriber, you will know it has been, I don't even know, maybe 3 seasons of me constantly going over my seeds with you guys and talking about how unorganized I am with my seed collection. I used to just store them in this little like wooden kitchen utensil bin, and they're just like all just jammed in there, and it was a big mess. So I ended up, per your guys' recommendation, going and buying a little photo album, and the reason I picked this one is because it had a little flower on it. So we're getting a little bit more high-tech here. I know there's some better ways to store your seeds, but this was a pretty affordable solution for now. So I want to go through some of my seeds, show you guys, you know, I'm getting a little bit more organized day by day. When it comes to the seeds I'm mostly focused on today, I'll go over the ones that I am going to be starting in my soil blocks. A lot of things I'm going to be direct sowing in my next video. Today I'm focused mostly on tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. I don't have okra seeds, but if I did have okra seeds, I would certainly be getting those planted out. Most of those require at least 70 to 80 degrees to germinate, meaning the tomatoes and I believe the okra seeds to stimulate germination. And the next 10 days is forecasted to be around 80 degrees as the high. Now when it comes to eggplant and peppers, they do like hotter temperatures to stimulate germination, anywhere between 80 to 90 degrees. So definitely keep that in mind. One of the next videos I'm going to be filming will be a direct sow video, and that is going to be a lot of heavy hitters, like all of my winter squash, all of my summer squash, my cucumbers, my beans, potentially peas if the forecast isn't looking too hot. Okay, I am simply just getting my soil block mixture a little bit more hydrated. So a little bit, okay, I think that might be good. We shall see. My hose handle is broken, so I have to literally turn the hose on and off every time. Anyways, all I'm doing is a mixture of, I can't even lift this up. All I'm doing is a mixture of compost and about coconut coir. So I do prefer to use coconut coir. I don't have all the scientific reasons. I have listened to people who are much more educated on this topic talking about the benefits versus peat moss versus coconut coir. And coconut coir is a lot more of a sustainable option. So again, I'm not going to get too much into the reasons because I don't know exactly why, but they just sold me on the fact that coconut coir was really good for maintaining hydration and aerating the entire mix. Typically, I would also ideally prefer to have perlite in here as well as worm castings, but I just don't have those on me. So I'm just going to settle for about a 3-part ratio of compost to about 1 part of coconut coir. I do prefer soil blocking as opposed to all these little flimsy plastic trays. I think it's, again, a more sustainable option, and it also is just much easier to work with. You're also creating starts that are healthier because the roots have more opportunity to go out and get more air as opposed to circling and circling and circling around. So your starts are much healthier off the bat. So if you're not familiar with soil blocking, definitely consider looking into it, because you'll have way less maintenance when it comes to storing all those little plastic containers. You're really simply just storing this piece of machinery and potentially like a bucket and whatever your trays are. The goal here is like a brownie batter consistency that has a lot of moisture when you are squeezing it out. This is not a comprehensive soil blocking video, but if you're kind of glancing at this video, that's what you're going for. Okay, I wanted to pull this out here because I figure I'd have more room than in between those two beds. So let's see if I got the water levels at a good place. And I just put this in here, and then we got our little perfect soil blocks. We put one seed in each one of these holes. If you are considering doing a spring garden, especially if you live in one of these warmer climates, I would definitely recommend at least buying your seeds, start planning out where you're going to be putting your starts, and start getting the wheels in motion. A little bit backstory. Last spring, I was anticipating that spring to be similar to the spring before that, so I guess 2 springs ago. Now mind you, I also had a new 1-year-old baby last spring as well, so I was definitely feeling, as well as a 3-year-old, I was definitely feeling the like postpartum overwhelm last spring. So I was planning on getting all of my starts out by mid-March, anticipating that that would give me a really good amount of time to just enjoy the tender spring season. Last spring went from winter to summer, literally, as far as like how the weather conditions were, and things were awfully hot so quickly, and I experienced bug pressure so soon, and a lot of that I contributed to just, you know, it took a longer time to get my act together because of how overwhelmed I was with everything. And I told myself this year, God willing, if I have the mental fortitude to get my act together in February, I'm gonna plan on trying to do that. Now, anything is better than nothing. Don't put pressure on yourself if you are in a similar situation, because the garden is supposed to be a stress reliever, not a stress provider. So that is why last year I got my little transplants out nearly by April, and it was so hot. Okay, just for reference, each one of these trays holds about 35 little soil blocking cells, as you can see, roughly. Let's thumb through my garden collection book. Now, pineapple, tomatoes, I am going to get these planted out. These are some of my favorite tomatoes. If you haven't started ordering your tomato seeds, definitely get some of those. Sometimes these tomato plants that say they're something, like the strawberry tomatoes, for example, I have those seeds. They weren't, you know, all that they said that they were, but the pineapple tomatoes, yes, those were sweet. I'm also going to be sowing some Tiffin Mennonite seeds. I saw this Ivan tomato, which looked really interesting, like a really solid, just like beefsteak kind of variety, and it's a really classic heirloom. So I'm going to be putting these aside as well. I ordered the vintage wine tomatoes. They looked really similar to the Brandywine that I absolutely love, and the German Johnson. Oh my gosh, I've got to pare this down. I would love to start them all, but I've got to have some sort of self-control. San Marzano tomatoes are a big deal in my house. These are seeds that I have saved. Now, every time I say San Marzano tomato, I get so much reaction by it. I know that it's not going to be the same as if you grew it in Italy because of the soil and all that different type of stuff. However, I do find that this is a really great option for your sauce tomatoes. I got these orange currants, which look really similar to my spoon tomatoes that I've grown before in the past, except for they're orange. Now these are teensy tiny little baby seeds. You can barely even see them. If you thought a tomato seed was small before, well, these are much smaller than that. If they're anything like the spoon tomato, which is one of the smallest tomatoes out there, then they're similar to the size of a pea. This is how I saved my seeds before, and it's fine. I've had people go, "Oh no, that's an issue." I just put them on a paper towel, and you know, it works. And I'm just gonna keep doing what works. I love a good canning sauce tomato. I mean, any tomato can really be a canning tomato, in my opinion, if you want it to be. With the exception of, I think, cherry tomatoes. I hate running those through the food mill. They don't really work. It just kind of gets all crazy and gums up your food mill. My goal this year is to keep it going and can all of our tomato sauce, God willing, and more tomato products. I felt like last year I just tackled straight up marinara sauce. This year I want to do more like stewed tomatoes and pizza sauce specifically, just things like that, kind of branch out. When it comes to this whole like homesteading and non-toxic life, all that different type of stuff, it's extremely overwhelming. And this is the Ivan tomato. It's extremely overwhelming to get into. Just thinking about like, oh, I've got to start a garden, I have to do this and this. Those things can be so overwhelming. And what I'm telling myself is to just take it one step at a time, master one thing, get comfortable with one thing before moving on to the next. And that is definitely when it comes with the world of food preservation. I'm just taking it step by step. Once one thing is comfortable and seamless, I'll move on. Don't overwhelm yourself if you are somebody who's just now getting into this type of lifestyle, or maybe you're not homesteading on a large scale and you just kind of want to can your tomatoes. I don't know. Just don't overwhelm yourself, or you're going to stop enjoying it, and that's going to defeat the purpose of all of this. Okay, the vintage wine, I just thought this was really, really cool. It said it's a 1980s heirloom, so not that old. German Johnson, I have no experience growing this one, so if you do, let me know how it was. It said it is an odd name, great tomato with notes of citrus and melon. It says it's a dark pink tomato, and that's probably why I picked it. I love the pink looking tomatoes. I love it when they're just kind of like a little bit unusual. I try to proceed with caution, as I said before, because some of these varieties, they can be really fantastic looking and not so fantastic tasting. This is the Tiffin Mennonite. Last I have my pineapple tomatoes. I got the first bit of my tomato garden started. Now let's get the peppers going. Let me bring out my seed book. I moved locations. I hope I'm not going to get bit by bugs while I'm sitting here, but that's just the name of the game when it comes to gardening. Truthfully, I do not need a ton of peppers right now. I have overwintered 8 pepper plants. I don't remember all the varieties. I know I have a handful of serrano peppers. I've got banana peppers already growing, peppercini peppers, tam jalapenos, shishito peppers are already in the garden, cubanelle peppers, and Corno di Toro. So I've already have those plants mature. The second that the spring season starts to really take off, they are going to come back from their dormant state. Peppers can grow for, even up to 5 years. So I'm really excited about that. But what I wanted to do is get a few new varieties. So, because in my house, you can really never have too many peppers. It says to get the full mulatto experience, to let these poblano peppers dry on the vine. So it's like a poblano pepper, and I love that. It said that one plant will produce more than enough. I'll be the judge of that. I'm also going to get my tomatillos started. I didn't think about that. These would be really great to start right now. My next goal was eggplant. It looks like I have 2 of the same seed packet. So I'm going to do long purple and black beauty, which is like your standard eggplants. I don't know why every time I've tried to grow a poblano pepper, I don't know what happens. I just don't really successfully do it, and I try every year, and they're seriously one of my favorite peppers. So maybe this variety will actually end up working out where I haven't had success before. Okay, so I'm going to do 5 of the yellows, and I'm hoping I'm going to be drowning in bell peppers. Tomatillos, you're going to want at least 2 plants to cross-pollinate and do their thing. So you don't want just one tomatillo plant. That is why I will again I'm going to be doing everything in 5s just to make sure I've got more than enough. One tomatillo plant will give you a crazy amount of tomatillos. I couldn't even stay on top of picking them. In my defense, when I had a really successful tomatillo harvest, I had just had a baby, like just had a baby 2-3 months before, and I was like, I don't know what the heck to do with all these tomatillos. I do not have the time to get in here and can them. So I told myself next time, let the smoke clear when it comes to having a baby and everything, and then you can give it a shot as far as, I put this in the wrong area. Then you can give it a shot to, can salsa verde and things like that. Moving on to eggplant, long purple. The germination for these are about 10 days too. So I think they are really good type of seed to start together when it comes to the peppers. Now these are just the types of crops I prefer to start ahead of time in any type of like soil block or container before putting them in the garden. I don't prefer to start these seeds directly in the ground just because they're a lot more finicky. They can dry out. They need more consistency with temperatures and moisture to do their thing. Yes, anything is possible. I do, however, recommend starting these types of seeds ahead of time. Additional seeds that I would recommend would be your kale, your broccoli, cabbage, any type of brassicas if you plan on doing that and you're in a little bit cooler of a climate. I think that it's going to be a little bit too warm to get those types of seeds started personally. I'm not planning on doing any cool weather crops personally for my spring garden. I think it's just going to be too hot and a waste of space. I'm not even going to attempt to try more lettuce. Spinach is going to be super hit and miss right now, so instead I would recommend starting seeds for Swiss chard because it's really similar to spinach, but it's a lot more heat tolerant, as well as kale. So if you are going to start some type of leafy greens, Swiss chard and kale would be my biggest recommendation. Here's some Swiss chard I have growing from the winter time, which is really cool. It's the first time I've ever grown Swiss chard through the winter. When I say it's going to be too warm for X, Y, and Z, I am referring to people in zone 9 through 11. As you can see here, I have a few beds full of cauliflower and broccoli. I have some broccoli over here that's starting to form a head at the very first sign of warmer temperatures. I already have onions growing in the garden, and I do plan to do a more comprehensive garden tour later. These are actually shallots in this bed, and then I have a huge amount of onions growing in my no-dig garden area back there. Currently have strawberries growing, which is really cool because I already have a flower on my strawberries I'm seeing, and I feel like I literally just got those started. Some tomato plants that started growing. These tomato plants have been growing intertwined with a squash plant. I think it is the sugar pie pumpkin. I don't remember which kind I planted here, all through the winter time. So now they are totally ready to take off with a few little tomatoes growing on there, which is really, really exciting. But I'm just all in all really hoping to clear out the beds sooner than later. Oh, and one more thing I want to show you guys, which we have literally been coming out here every single day. I come out here with my kids, and we pick the shooting broccoli. These plants are awesome because there are so many little broccoli heads that you can just pick off, bring inside, and then you can saute these like you would a normal head of broccoli, but it's got a lot more flavor to them. And honestly, my kids just eat them as a snack through the garden. I believe it's broccoli or peony, I don't remember. But if you plan on growing broccoli in the spring garden and you're in a warmer climate, I would grow these because they start to produce really quickly. I feel like this is a really big moment because it's officially the moment that the spring garden has started. Although I already have plants in the garden, as you can see around me, the spring garden has started today, and there's so much to look forward to. I have all sorts of new plans when it comes to growing different fruits and different vegetables like peanuts. I want to try to grow peanuts this year, make my own peanut butter. So if you don't want to miss out on me growing all different types of fantastic things and seeing my trial and error, definitely hit the subscribe button. My name is Shelby again, and until next time.